Thanks, Sophie. Welcome to Wales Today. I'm Lucy Owen. The headlines. A mum whose baby died after she was left on her own during labour, drifting in and out of a coma, says major changes are needed to stop more deaths.
Then I can say that I've done everything in her name, and to think that this will not happen to another family.
The Health Board said it's fully committed to learning from this tragic event and said there'd been robust changes since Lily Wen's death. Also tonight. Michael O'Brien, wrongly jailed for murder, won't be refunded £40,000 taken from his compensation for his bed and board in prison.
Is they don't charge guilty people who commit heinous crimes and they don't get charged a penny. How can that be right?
Wrexham last played in the second tier of English football back in the 80s. Now the Hollywood-owned club are set to make their championship debut this weekend.
And from actors to footballers, people from all walks of life have been inducted into the Gorsedd at the National Eisteddfod for their outstanding contributions to Wales and the Welsh language.
Good evening, noswaith dda. A mum whose daughter died at just 20 hours old after she was left on her own during labour says major changes are needed to stop more deaths. Lily Wen Thomas died in October 2022 at Cardiff's University Hospital of Wales due to a lack of oxygen. Her mother, Emily Brazier, gave birth alone and in a coma after a reaction to pain medication. Emily now says all health boards should change their policies on pain relief in labour and induction. Nellie Bird reports.
So these are really precious because these have touched Lily Wen as well.
Irreplaceable memories of baby Lily Wen for Mum Emily. A beautiful baby weighing £8 2 ounces, but the trauma of her birth still brings flashbacks.
I knew I was on my own and I knew I was in agony. I just thought that someone will come and help me. Surely somebody will come and help me. And nobody did.
Emily was left on her own for an hour by midwives at the University Hospital of Wales in Cardiff. Her partner, Rodri, wasn't allowed to stay because of the time of day. She'd been given painkillers, pethidine and codeine, with no one monitoring her use of gas and air. She drifted in and out of a coma.
To wake up and see blood that I saw and a baby lying there, there was so much to process. He didn't even know that I'd had the baby. I told him that I don't know if our baby is alive. That's the first words he heard, and it was from me.
The following hours would see family members come to meet Lily Wen for the first time and the last. In the evening after she was born, her life support was turned off. She lived for just 20 hours.
The memories are seared into my mind, and the guilt as well, because even though you're told that, you know, she's not going to make it, the fact that you have to make the decision to switch her off, the guilt is unbelievable.
In a statement, Cardiff and Vale University Health Board said it sent its deepest sympathies to the family and said it was fully committed to learning from this tragic event. It said there'd been robust changes to staffing, escalation protocols and psychological support since Lily Wen's death. Now, nearly 3 years on, the family want change. This is the hospital where Emily gave birth. Lily Wen's recent inquest heard the big changes have been made here, including only allowing women to use gas and air under supervision. Emily now wants all health boards to do the same.
Maternity services are just on their last legs, and if they can implement the changes Cardiff and Vale have made, then it's a step closer to things like this not happening again.
The family also want a new independent body to be set up for investigations in the NHS, something that already happens in England, after feeling frustrated at the investigation into Lily Wen's care, which was all done internally.
It feels like Lily Wen's death won't be in vain if we can achieve the change that we really feel is needed. Then I can say that I've done everything in her name, and to think that this will not happen to another family is a sense of justice for us as well.
In response, the Welsh Government said patient safety was paramount and that an independent assessment of maternity and neonatal services was underway. It said there were mechanisms in place for learning to be shared following Cardiff and Vale's review. Emily and Rodri are also parents to 5-year-old Caris and 8-month-old Ellis. A new baby helping to heal, but thoughts of Lilywyn are never far away.
And if you've been affected by this story, information about organisations that offer help and support is available on the BBC Action Line website. A man from Cardiff who was wrongly jailed for murder will not be refunded almost £40,000 taken from his compensation for bed and board in prison. Michael O'Brien was one of 3 men imprisoned for 11 years for the murder of Cardiff newsagent Philip Saunders in 1987. The convictions were overturned in 1999. The Ministry of Justice says victims of miscarriages of justice don't face the deductions anymore. But Mr O'Brien says he'll continue the fight for himself and others in his position. Eleanor Rice reports.
Michael O'Brien walking free after a decade in prison for a crime he didn't commit. He was cleared in 1999 alongside 2 other men known as the Newsagent 3 for the murder of Philip Saunders in the Canton area of Cardiff. Mr O'Brien was paid £670,000 in compensation under a scheme for victims of miscarriages of justice. But then he was charged £37,500 for his bed and board, a charge he asked for a review into.
They don't charge guilty people who commit heinous crimes and they don't get charged a penny. How can that be right in any right-minded person's mind? I just really don't get it.
Mr O'Brien found out last night the High Court had rejected his demand for a judicial review into the decision to deduct the money. A blow, he says, but not the end.
I'll never give up, you know what I mean? I never give up on my wrongful conviction. It took me a long time to get out of prison, but I eventually done it. The only thing I can say is, you know, luckily I'm a fighter and I'm a strong person, and I will take it as far as I can go. And if I can get it raised in Parliament, then just maybe we can get the law changed. Because if it's too late for me, at least we can stop it happening for other people.
The Ministry of Justice said deductions are no longer taken from victims of miscarriages of justice. But they say, as is the case for most government policy, this change does not apply retrospectively. Michael O'Brien wants to make a difference for others in his position.
The people who got this wrong are the parliamentarians, the MPs and the people who sit in Parliament, both houses of Parliament, and this is why we need a root and branch review of this law so that fair play can ensue. He's been a tireless campaigner since his release, and I don't think that this is necessarily the end of the matter, and I think he will bring this to the attention of politicians and other people with influence that it's simply not fair play.
It's been more than 25 years since Mr O'Brien cleared his name. He says he'll continue his fight for accountability.
Eleanor Rice with that report. A series of bin strikes planned in Wrexham in a dispute over working patterns and reduced pay will go ahead. The Unite union say the strikes, voted for by 71% of about 100 workers involved in the dispute, will take place on 13 dates between the 23rd of August and the 14th of November. Wrexham Council says it's extremely disappointed in the decision as Unite took part in a lengthy and prolonged consultation. Well, it's been a day of tradition and ceremony on the Eisteddfod Mice today, so let's get all the details from Jen, who's at the Stone Circle. Jen.
Yes, welcome back to Wrexham, Lucy. Now, it's one of the iconic rituals of the National Eisteddfod, the Gorsedd ceremony, where people from all walks of life are inducted into the Gorsedd for their outstanding contribution to Wales, to the Welsh language and their local communities. It's one of our nation's highest honours. Now, I've been speaking to one new Gorsedd member who wasn't sure until recently whether she would even make it here from her home in the United States. Now, she's a journalist, but she's also known as the translator for Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, the Hollywood owners of Wrexham AFC. Her name is Maxine Hughes, and over the past few months, she's been undergoing gruelling cancer treatment and has even postponed major surgery just to be here this week.
Nad oes un ohonon ni erioed wedi gweld o blaen.
From Washington
Tea in a Palisades.
to Los Angeles. For over a decade, journalist and documentary maker Maxine Hughes has reported the news from every corner of the United States.
Felly, Maxine, beth sy'n digwydd yno heno?
Yeah, tu ôl I fi y carchach lle maen nhw'n gael. There's a lot of appetite from the audiences back in Wales for American politics and for things happening in America. I try to put my priority on broadcasting in Welsh about international issues.
Mae'r Eisteddfod yn dod I Wrexham.
And more recently, she's had a new role as translator to Wrexham AFC owners and Hollywood stars Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney.
They put out a casting call asking for a Welsh speaker in America, which I thought was a joke at the time. The next thing you find yourself on a set in Hollywood with Rob and Ryan. The first time when I met them, Rob sang the national anthem to me. Having them have that view of Welsh and of the Welsh culture, it filters down then.
Then last December, while visiting family in Australia, her father died, and 2 days later, she discovered a lump in her breast.
I went back to America. It was pretty obvious straight away. You know, the radiologist could see that it was cancer. But I then subsequently found out that it was triple negative breast cancer, which is a very aggressive form.
Maxine has just finished 20 rounds of chemotherapy, but she's postponed a double mastectomy in order to come to the Eisteddfod. It must mean a great deal to you to be here.
I was sitting having chemotherapy and I got an email from the Eisteddfod to tell me that I was being inducted into the Gorsedd Abade. And it was such a overwhelming feeling of emotion for me. You know, it just felt like it was all worth it. It's such a huge honour.
And this is her moment. And her new bardic name?
Maxine John Conwy.
Other well-known figures inducted today were Wrexham footballer Lily Jones.
The warmth of the sun, the warmth of everyone around us. It was such an amazing and special experience.
And Star Wars and The Crown actor Mark Lewis-Jones.
It's just wonderful. It's a really powerful and emotional experience. I hadn't really expected to feel so emotional.
As for Maxine, she's flying home on Sunday and having a double mastectomy on Monday. And all the while, she's filming a documentary about her experience.
I'm kind of still working, even though I'm obviously, you know, going to have treatment and will have to recover. Hopefully by kind of November time, I'll be back to normal.
So a challenging time ahead. But today was a day to celebrate with her family and friends back home in Wales. Yes, a memorable day for all the new Gorsedd members. We'll be back later in the programme with an update on the winner of the Eisteddfod chair. But for now, back to Lucy.
We'll see you shortly, Jen. Thank you very much. You're watching Wales Today, still to come before 7. After 3 promotions in a row, can Wrexham manage a 4th and make it to the Premier League? Their campaign begins tomorrow.
And turning increasingly warm this weekend, the heat will build further into next week. So, will more parts of Wales go into another heat wave? And how high will those temperatures get? Join me later for that full forecast.
The drive to reach net zero is leading to a wild west of applications for potentially dangerous battery sites across Wales. Well, that's the claim from Plaid Cymru Senedd member Llyr Griffith. The batteries store electricity generated, for example, from solar farms until there's demand for it. But Mr Griffith, who also chairs the Sened's Climate Change Committee, says better regulation of these so-called BESS sites is needed after large fires elsewhere. Here's Gwyn Loader.
In Cefn-Rhugos at the top of the Cynon Valley, there are signs of opposition to a proposed battery energy storage system nearby.
Developers are looking to put the batteries on what they call the flatter side of the field, over towards the tree there in the distance.
Campaigners say the site is unsuitable and are concerned about a potential fire safety risk.
The field there at the corner of the road, that would be where the BESS would be situated. Obviously our main concern as a community is the proximity of the houses and the people to that proposed site. And the dangers that, that could come from a fire. They say the risk is low, but still the risk is there, and rules need to be in place in order to safeguard residents.
Welsh Government ministers have been asked to call in the application here, which is currently on hold pending the submission of further information from the applicant. The potential developers declined to comment. This is how a BESS site looks. It's a series of batteries which are usually lithium-ion. With a focus on net zero and renewable energy, that energy needs to be stored. When light shines on solar panels, for instance, energy can be stored in a BESS site until there is more demand for electricity. They're governed by robust health and safety regulations, but there are safety concerns after large fires at similar installations.
They do have volatile chemicals in them in order to enable such a high voltage battery. And basically, if one of these cells fail, because there's lots and lots of these cells in any large scale system, they can have something that causes thermal runaway, and that can cause translation of explosions throughout the whole battery system. So there is a risk. There's always a risk. There's the same risk, there's similar risks when you're looking at petrol stations. But the development of safety implementations and legislation alongside the installation of these systems is part and parcel.
There are currently 87 proposals for BESS installations across Wales, at various stages within the planning process. Speaking as Plaid Cymru's Senedd member for North Wales, Llyr Griffith, who is also chair of the Sened's Climate Change Committee, feels better regulation is needed.
There needs to be a national strategy in terms of identifying our needs in terms of battery storage, but also where best to place those. It's unmanaged. It's a bit of a Wild West situation at the minute, and that needs to change.
The Welsh Government says BESS schemes provide the low-carbon flexibility we require. It also says the planning process has a role to ensure developments are well planned and situated. As the transition to a greener economy and net zero continues, it is likely BESS schemes and opposition to them will become an increasingly charged issue.
Sport now, and the Scarlets have announced new investment in the rugby region from a US-based company. Board members of House of Luxury LLC include former WRU Chief Executive David Moffat and Wales fly half Dan Biggar. The group will eventually take a majority stake in the Scarlets and will take the lead on non-rugby operations. How much the investment is worth hasn't been revealed. On to football, and after 3 promotions in a row, Hollywood-owned Wrexham make their championship debut this weekend at Southampton. Now, you have to go back to the 1980s for the club's last season in the second tier of English football. And despite 3 promotions in a row, manager Phil Parkinson said the club won't get carried away with fans' expectations of doing it again and reaching the Premier League. Here's Matthew Richards.
1982. Conflict in the Falklands, a future Prince of Wales is born. Pope John Paul II is in Cardiff, and the Human League are at number 1. Wrexham are flying high too after 4 years in football's second tier, before being relegated at the end of the season. 43 years on, they're finally back to those giddy heights. The summer saw a flurry of new signings, including Wales internationals Danny Ward and Kiefer Moore. The task for manager Phil Parkinson, though, is to keep winning.
Of course, the 3 in the row is history. People are going to inevitably mention that. But we don't get carried away with ourselves. We never have. Other people on the outside may well talk about that, but we're just focused on what we've got to do, remaining grounded as a group and knowing that there's a lot of hard work ahead of us, but it's equally very exciting as well.
But is this where the promotion journey finally ends?
So hello, welcome to the latest episode of Rob, Ryan, Red of the Wrexham podcast.
Rich Fay and Nathan Salt have been podcasting about Wrexham for 4 years.
They believe that they are now as close as you can get to the Premier League without being there. So why would they not give it their all? They've only wanted to win every single time since they've been in charge of the club, and that's not going to change.
One of the best things that American owners bring to our game is this insatiable appetite to win. They don't understand finishing 10th. Rob McElhenney saying, how have 9 teams finished ahead of us? It doesn't make sense. He came on the podcast and said, I wouldn't take finishing, what did he say, 7th in the Premier League or something, because why are there 6 teams ahead of us? You know, why would you not want to win? That's their attitude, and we are reaping the rewards of that.
But sometimes you've got to look back where you've come from to really appreciate just how amazing it's been already.
Whatever happens in future, the Wrexham story has already inspired other would-be Ryans and Robs to get involved in non-league football. Elliot Stroud runs a website for people looking to invest in football clubs.
I get buyers coming to me and investors saying, you know, we want to do a Wrexham, or we want to try and emulate what Ryan and Rob have done at Wrexham. So it's funny how often I talk about Wrexham with people, you know, very often them bringing it up. And then obviously we try and work out what it is that we can do together.
The new shirts are ready to wear here at the club's Eisteddfod store, and fans are at fever pitch, ready to welcome faces new and familiar to the Wrexham story ahead of tomorrow's game away to Southampton. Where that story ends, though, is anyone's guess.
Now, we're also known as a nation of rugby fans, but have you ever stopped to think where it all began in Wales? Lampeter has previously claimed the honour of being the birthplace of Welsh rugby, but now, almost 160 years later, Llandovery has been given equal rights to the title. Gary Owen picks up the story.
The sign says it all. Llandovery has a long and proud rugby history, but now it can boast a new claim to fame as the birthplace of Welsh rugby.
Arriving in Llandovery from all directions, you can't fail to miss the historic link between this town and its college and the formation of Welsh rugby.
The Reverend John Williams, the first warden of Llandovery College in 1848, is said to have brought competitive rugby to the town. This led to the college producing 2 players for the first Welsh international rugby fixture, and was present when the WRU was created in 1881. Its rugby roll of honour continues today.
So our director of rugby, for example, is Nathan Thomas, Welsh backgrower, and he leads the department, and we're connected with a lot of old boys, so Alan Wynne-Jones, George North, of that era. We've just sent 3 boys into the professional game, into Scarlets, really proud of that.
Many of the greats in Welsh rugby have weaved their magic on this pitch, with over 50 former Llandovery College students earning more than 550 caps for their country.
Every single one of you, think about it, think about it, think about it.
Welsh rugby genius and coach Carwyn James made a lasting impact here as a teacher, coach and mentor. And now, official recognition by the WRU for the town as co-founder of rugby in Wales with Lampeter University.
It came as a shock to a lot of people. Nobody really knew much about it other than those involved. Everybody's told me that, you know, they've seen the sign in Lampeter and they thought that was where rugby was born. But as I told them, it takes 2 to tango. You need 2 teams to play rugby, and they both played in Caio in 1866, I think it was.
It was played in the summer fair or spring fair, where a lot of labourers, farm labourers, turned up to sell themselves to local farmers, and they saw the game being played, and apparently they just all jumped in and got involved, and the referee had to stop the game and kick them off the pitch. So there's an account of that.
With Llandovery being officially recognised, the attention now turns to marking the contribution the sleepy hamlet of Caio made to Welsh sporting history as home of the first competitive game of rugby in Wales.
Now, for the final time this year, let's head back to Jen at the National Eisteddfod in Wrexham. Jen.
Thank you, Lucy. Yes, we were talking earlier about the Gorsedd ceremony, and the second big ceremony of the day was the presentation of the Eisteddfod chair. Now, remarkably, this was the second time that poet Tudur Hallam has won the competition. In an emotional ceremony, he was honoured for his collection of poems written in what's known as Cynghanedd, which is a very strict poetic metre. He says he started writing following his terminal cancer diagnosis earlier this year, and he hopes his poems will help others facing a similar situation. Yes, warm congratulations to Tudur Hallam. Now, this festival is far from over. There's still a couple of days of gigs and events to go, but when all of this is cleared away and everyone's gone home, what will the legacy be of the Wrexham National Eisteddfod? Will it really have given Welsh a boost in the area? Well, the local council certainly believes so.
This has been several years in the making, and there's community connections been made. People can see what versions of the Welsh language and Welsh culture they like and fits them and suits them, and probably engage with it more and get involved more with the community. For businesses in Wrexham, engaging with the Welsh language, they've been encouraged to use tipyn bach o Cymraeg in their socials and, you know, ar agor ar gai, and we just want that to continue and grow.
OK, let's get the forecast for the last couple of days of the festival. Sabrina, temperatures hotting up.
They certainly are, Jen, so it's going to be an increasingly warm weekend and those temperatures jumping up further early next week. At the moment, it does look like some parts of Wales will head into another heat wave, potentially 30 degrees in some parts in Wales. So today it has been a busy day at the Eisteddfod. If you're coming tomorrow, then we are expecting largely fine conditions. Small chance for the odd shower, but I think the main emphasis will be on a dry trend together with a noticeable breeze. This evening and overnight then, dry out there for the vast majority. Just a few isolated showers, mainly in parts of South Wales. With that, we expect some variable amounts of cloud and those overnight lows dipping away to around 11 to 14 Celsius. Our Saturday forecast then, we're starting off with a few scattered showers, mainly in the south initially, and then heading towards North Wales through the afternoon. Most places, though, I think will escape dry together with sunny spells and variable amounts of cloud. More of a noticeable breeze, highs of around 19 to 23 Celsius. By the time we get to Sunday then, a ridge of higher pressure extending in, and that will mean a continuation of fine, settled conditions for the most part. Any early mist or fog clearing on Sunday morning to allow for growing amounts of sunshine. Once again, it looking warm, if not very warm in some places, getting up to about 26 Celsius in parts of the southeast. By the time we get to Monday, those temperatures bouncing up further, so it's going to be a very warm, if not hot day. There will be the chance for some thunderstorms, but as always, most of us will escape those. Then Tuesday into Wednesday, that looks like we'll see very warm, if not hot conditions once again. As I've mentioned, heat wave status is possible in places. And then later in the week, whilst it will be on the warm side, those temperatures falling away somewhat, but temperatures still above average with lots of dry weather for the most part. So it has been a busy old week here at the Eisteddfod, a storm earlier on in the week. Now it's a lot more settled, and for the most part, that weather has behaved, hasn't it, Jen?
It has just about, Sabrina, thank you. And that's it from the Wrexham National Eisteddfod. It has been a genuine pleasure to bring you the latest from the mice. I do hope that we brought a sense of the fun and the celebration, but also the pride that everyone here feels in their language and in the Welsh culture. Now, next year, this festival is off to Pembrokeshire, but for this year, from Wrexham, from all of us on the Wales Today team, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi am wylio, thanks for watching, and hwyl fawr. Goodbye.